righty, welcome back from the episode of Two Plane Sports. Today, we're going to be talking Jacoby Johnson committing to Oklahoma, another big-time commit, in-state commit, the number 2 player in the 2023 class in the state of Oklahoma. Arguably, I think could be the number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma, committed to the Sooners this weekend. And we're going to be talking a lot of team notes and team how practices have been going and other things like that. And we're going to be talking about who's looking good, who's maybe kind of falling behind, and maybe updating kind of some projected starters. So, but before we get into it, I just want to say we appreciate it. We're like 13 subscribers away from 4,900. So if you're watching this, hit the subscribe button. It's free. I know over half of you that are watching don't subscribe. It's free, easy. Turn the notification bell. We're going to be going live next Monday night, August 22nd. We're going to be doing another live stream, talking a little previewing to the football season in general and Oklahoma and everything else. So you're going to definitely want to be turning on that notification bell. We'll probably be going live around 8:30 p.m. Central. At about 8 or so, we're going to be doing a Zoom call with our members. So if you aren't part of our $4.99 a month membership group, you definitely should. It's easy. It's not that much money. You get more Sooner content and more access to us. So be sure to be on either your computer or Safari and go on there and go to our memberships tab on our channel and just join right there, and it'll be easy. Another thing that we're doing, obviously, OU football is just a few weeks away. We're going to be giving away some tickets. You know, if you guys have been around long enough, we gave away a bunch of tickets to the spring game to various subscribers. This time, we're going to give away 2 pairs of tickets of 2 for the UTEP game, the first game. We're planning to give away more tickets throughout the season, but we're giving away a total of 4 tickets, 2 pairs. And in order for you to be entered into that, you have to be subscribed. You have to like the video, and then you have to follow us either on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Everything's linked below. It's easy and that's free. And then you'll stick around for the end of video challenge. Today's gonna be Jose's end of video challenge since Brandon isn't here. And then you'll do the end of video challenge and say that you've done that, and that'll be your entry. So we'll be announcing that the Wednesday before the first game. So it gives you guys a few days to figure out how you're going to get to the game and everything else. So we're going to be giving away tickets, and we're planning to do that throughout this season as much as we can, as a way to thank you guys for coming back and listening to our voices and everything else and our ridiculous takes. All right, so we'll get into it. I'll stop. I know people are probably like, good Lord, this guy's intros sometimes are ridiculous. But so we got some good news this weekend. Jacoby Johnson, 6'3", 183-pound athlete. He's going to be playing corner for Oklahoma. He announced his commitment. He's a 2023 4-star, number 87 overall, and the number 6 athlete in the class. Committed to Oklahoma over Alabama, Michigan, Stanford, Arkansas, and others. You know, it seemed like for a long time that OU was the front runner. OU is considered his dream school. He's also going to play both football and basketball for Oklahoma, as long as he's able to swing, do it. That's his current plan. And I don't know if there's been another athlete. It's been years since a football player has also played basketball. I know obviously Kyler Murray played both, and a few other players have played baseball, but I don't think anyone's played basketball in 20, 30 years. I can't name a person off the top of my head. It's been a very long time. Jose might know, but I can't.
Rollins Cabbage on the basketball team? I know he played both sports, and other schools were recruiting him for both.
I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I am not 100% sure, but either way, Jacoby Johnson, I think, what Brandon Drum said about him was he could arguably be the best corner in this class. His just athletic ability is there. Obviously, whenever you've got D1 offers for football and basketball, and then the opportunity to go play both at certain schools, not many kids can say that. And they're not just little schools, they're big time schools. I know his dad played basketball at TCU, so he had that in his family genes. But for him to be able to, commit to Oklahoma, securing a top in-state player, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's the key right there. The fact that he's from Oklahoma, I think that's going to start really, hopefully, getting people to flip on whatever silly narrative it is that this staff is not focusing on recruiting in Oklahoma. I think that that's actually extremely wrong. We've seen them whenever they came in initially trying to finish off the 2022 class, they added a whole bunch of in-state people. And yes, I understand that they were all walk-ons, but they were offered an opportunity to play for Oklahoma. You're not going to win them all. Some kids just want to leave the state. And this is the one area where I think it's fair to say these coaches are behind with in-state recruiting. That is a little harder to try to catch up on when you have Mike Gundy, who's pretty much really likes to keep as many Oklahoma kids in Oklahoma State, or at least that's been his goal since Lincoln, or with Oklahoma being headed by Lincoln Riley over the last 5 years. I think he's been winning those battles more often. But I think Brent Venables is here to change that. Two is that Jacoby Johnson is a freak athlete. I was watching some of his highlight tapes on Saturday before his commitment, just to kind of get a better understanding of the type of athlete he is. And even I know he's playing corner for Oklahoma, or that's what he's expected to do once he gets to campus, but he is very talented at both. Like if I know last year, whenever we were doing the Who Dat series, I said Billy Bowman is a guy that's got that athletic ability and just the raw talent to play both sides. I think Jacoby Johnson is a very similar athlete. He's not the same build in regard to how bulky he is, but he's tall, long, super fast. And if he's on the offensive side, I don't think anyone on defense, or very few athletes in the country, are going to be able to win 50-50 balls. And he's got the speed to create separation. On the defensive side of the ball, again, he's got the speed to stay on the receiver's hip. And with the ability he has of tracking the ball in the air, it's going to be tough for a lot of receivers to go against him. So he's going to be a dude I'm excited to have on the team. Once he gets to campus, depending on the situation at the DB spot, he could have an opportunity to compete for minutes at least, and even starting position year one.
He definitely could. And, there was a time where maybe we thought, when he visited Alabama, I was somewhat nervous or whatever, but kind of reading, some notes and some summaries on him, it seemed like he was never really considering truly leaving. So it's always good that he held true to his commitment. He's coming to Oklahoma. And as a whole, just kind of looking at this class as a general, overall, he's the 20th commit now in this 2023 class. So now OU, 20 commits that I don't remember ever having 20 commits before the first football game under Lincoln Riley. So it's good to have, the majority of this class put together. And looking at where Oklahoma's at, according to 247 Sports, it's the number 7 overall class, but they're only 2/100ths of a point off behind LSU right now. So one more commit that puts Oklahoma right up to 6. And kind of looking ahead for the month of August 26th. So we're looking at, 11 days or so as you're watching this video. You've got Anthony Evans and Makari Vickers, another top 100 player in Vickers, and then another 4-star in Anthony Evans that could both end up committing to Oklahoma. Vickers could be one of those locks that we've talked about on previous videos. Anthony Evans probably isn't one of the locks that's been tweeted out yet, but there could be over the next week or so that we could see a lot coming out. And then looking at September 19th, you've got Jordan Renaud, who's the number 8 defensive lineman in the class. And then down the road, could a David Hicks come into the picture? Maybe. He's set to commit in January. And then you look at, could Peyton Bowen flip from Notre Dame? And I think that the deal is with him is Bowen's going to make his decision over the next few weeks before his first football game. And I think we're going to see whether he's going to be committed to Notre Dame or he's going to be a Sooner or an Aggie. So that's something to be watching. So this class still has a handful of guys that are uncommitted and kind of still out there in no man's land right now. But I mean, it's coming together. And by September 19th could be Jordan Renaud and then a couple more guys. They could have 23 commits. And I think that with 23 commits, that might put them at number 5 as we sit right now. It's pretty solid. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you named some incredible talent that could potentially be landing in Norman, next year. But one of the important names that I think you mentioned there is not just Jordan Renaud, but the possibility of Peyton Bowen flipping. It seems like it's, Thune has said it's very real. Drum has mentioned it seems like it's really happening. That being said, I don't know how confident I feel with him going to Oklahoma. It really seems like A&M might be the spot he flips to. The reason I truly believe it is because I was doing a little bit of research. I saw someone mention that he could flip this weekend, or like how likely is it that he flipped this weekend. I hadn't seen anything that said that that was a possibility, but it made me just wonder, like, if he does flip, is it going to be Oklahoma like we've all expected to? Checked in to his mom's Twitter account, and again, I know it's Twitter, I know we can't put a lot of weight into it, but if you go check it out, it's a lot of Notre Dame stuff mentioning Peyton, but also a lot of A&M stuff, not much Oklahoma stuff. I'm not sure, again, how much weight to put into that. Does the family make this decision? Is it going to be Peyton really being the only force with where he's going? We've seen family members sway decisions. I think it was Drum that said moms always win. But what we have working for us is that one of Peyton's best friends is getting an Oklahoma commit, and his girlfriend is going to Oklahoma. So it's going to be girlfriend versus mom. Tough place to be in if you're Peyton Bowen right now.
Very tough. And I would argue that depending on the girlfriend might end up winning out. I mean,
it depends on what he's thinking with.
Yeah, for sure what he's thinking with. Part of me thinks, and I think I've said this previously, as much as I'd like Peyton Bowen to be a Sooner, he's been on campus a half dozen times. Drum and Thune have talked about that, multiple visits with his brother Eli Bowen, who's also a good 2024 corner. And he's got Jackson Arnold in his ear. Part of me thinks, like, if he's got all these trips, he's close, and he's one of his best friends is already committed to Oklahoma, why hasn't he already done that? And part of me thinks that there's some sort of issue, some sort of reservation, something that's working against it. And if you really were all in and you wanted to be a part of it, you would just jump in head first. Just like Colton Vasek, after his trip, he was like, I'm sold, I'm done. Like, Peyton Bowen wasn't sold on the last trip. Obviously, he went down to A&M. And the way he's just dragging this out, the more I'm thinking, I'm like, every day that goes by, I'm just like, I'm just trying to like lower my expectations. My gut is telling me he's not going to play for Oklahoma.
Yeah, it's one that we're going to have to ultimately see what's going to be the force, right? I mean, it seems like, mom want him to stay in Texas. He's mentioned multiple times that he's sticking to Notre Dame. I mean, it's not unheard of that a recruit would say that their recruitment is still very open, even though they are verbally committed somewhere, i.e. Novosad, that guy double committed to a university. So it's not something that's unheard of at this point. Or again, is the girlfriend going to win out and be the reason that he goes to Oklahoma? I think this recruitment is one that's going to take a while, but the next 3 weeks, we're going to just have to follow again. How I think kind of like Vasek, if you recall, like it was sometime middle of July when we were really starting to gain some momentum, and then we started seeing Omasigo, and I think it was right after Caden Green had committed, and Jackson Arnold and Joshua Bates. They were all starting to tweet at Colton Vasek slowly, and talking about where home was. If players start doing that to Peyton Bowen, that's when I think this unsettling feeling of him being an Aggie goes away.
I hope so. I mean, at the end of the day, if Bowen doesn't flip, it is what it is. OU is going to be able to probably land another 4-star safety. I think whether it's Ryan Yates, his teammate. I think Yates is supposed to take an official this fall, which would be huge. While he's still committed to LSU. And then I think Conrad Husse is in Florida. He's currently committed to Penn State. he's another guy that I believe Jerome mentioned that OU could really start pressing for his commitment if Bowen decides ultimately. But we should know in a few weeks, and we can finally put this thing to bed. It's one of those things that do you remember the kid from Owasso that ended up committing to Florida?
Chris McClellan.
McClellan. I just remember that recruitment. I was just like, I'm just ready for it to be over. And this Bowen is the same way. I'm just ready for it to be done. I don't even care. I mean, yeah, I want to go to Oklahoma, but just make a decision. We just want to be done.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just
the one thing with Chris is it seemed like it was always whoever he visited the most recently was the one getting the edge. And ultimately he's going to Florida, but we mentioned where, I mean, who knows what's going to happen in Florida if Billy Napier's that guy or not, but yeah. So there's just like Dylan Edwards, I think was that guy for me this cycle. That guy's recruitment took 7 million years for him to decommit, and then almost immediately everyone knew where he was going. He didn't make it a secret.
Yeah, no, that's true. So I will move on, but still a big addition in this defensive back room. You could be getting some more defensive back help. Another top 100 player in Vickers come in about a week and a half or so. That would be a huge addition. And so we'll be sure to keep you guys updated on that. So something that we haven't really been talking about over the last week or so, but they've been practicing, is some more like team oriented current players on the roster. I mean, at the end of the day, I know we love to talk recruitment, but we got to see what this team's going to be like. So I'll start off with the defensive backfield, which I feel like the defensive backfield is a hot topic, in recruiting and on this squad. It seems like Jaden Davis is playing. He's playing extremely well. He's having a bounce back here, and I think he was Drum or no Thune way back when he came on the very first time on our show, and we did a pre-recorded show and put it up. I think he mentioned Davis, and maybe I'm dreaming this or whatever, as potentially as someone that could bounce back and has nothing to lose. I think I might be just daydreaming this, but anyway, Jaden Davis has been playing extremely well. It seems like he's contending for a starting position, a starting corner spot. Also, Joshua Eaton is playing extremely well. It seems like he's put together it mentally and physically. He seems to be in a good spot for that. And then you still have Woody Washington, DJ Graham. It seems like all of a sudden, and I didn't even mention any of the transfers of Trey Morrison or CJ Colden. It seems like the guys that were on campus last year with the old staff, they seem to be the top dogs as far as for these two starting corner spots. What do you think?
Yeah, that right there is exactly what I think. I feel like that should in some way be an indictment towards Alex Grinch and how poorly that defense was coached, and Roy Manning and how bad of a defensive back coach he was. The fact that we brought in experienced transfers that can play the corner position, and maybe they didn't play it at a Power 5 school, and with regard specifically with CJ Colden, but they're talented. In last year's defense, they might have even been able to get the starting spots. But the fact that now that there's a good corners coach, a good defense, one of the best defensive minds behind it, these guys that were already on campus are showing that they can and will be good enough to be on the field every Saturday. That's just a bad look for Grinch. And USC fans should be slightly concerned for their DB situation and their secondary overall. And news for Oklahoma, I think that's awesome. I mean, I was never a big Jaden believer. You can call me a doubter of his, but last year he didn't show that he was going to be a starting caliber player this year. He got roasted a lot, and DJ Graham gets a lot of slack for some of the big plays that he gave up, but Jaden Davis did I would say just as bad of a job in similar situations. It's good to hear that this change is going well for him. He got a fresh start that he seems to have needed. Now he's going to get hopefully put in a position, if he may not start, at least get some playing time, because I wouldn't imagine that he wouldn't at least get some time when someone needs a breather, or if there's just a spread offense or something funky out there where we need a little bit more speed because he's not super slow. He's good at what he does. We're just gonna have to wait and see. And it's also pretty early in camp, so I mean things can change. But I think the fact that he's impressed early enough, good sign for him.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, he's got nothing to lose and everything to gain because I believe it's his senior year that it's coming up on, senior year. He's been here for a while. He came on his freshman year and really kind of has regressed, a couple years after that. And now it seems like a fresh, breath of fresh air for him. I believe we talked about him. I think his number 2 was Clemson. And I think he was probably going to leave unless, other than when Brent Venables showed up, he was going to leave because of the old staff. And then, it's just kind of like Marvin Mims. He's like, oh man, I'm actually going to get to play. I'm going to get great coaching. And he ended up staying. So it seems like he very well could start. Joshua Eaton could start, but I think Woody Washington will end up starting out of this. But I think we're going to see a bunch of different pairings week 1, week 2, week 3, different groupings and things like that, depending on the height and matchups. Talking about the corners, the nickelback position, Justin Harrington, 6'3", seems like he's really he's putting it together. He's playing extremely well. He's making interceptions. He's tackling. He's really all the hype that he had coming in as a JUCO transfer before he got hurt. It seems like the hype is there again, and he seems to be producing. And, I'm thinking about a lineup of Joshua Eaton, Justin Harrington, Key Lawrence, Woody Washington, Billy Bowman. I mean, that's pretty solid as far as length goes. 6'3", Eaton 6'2", Woody Washington's about 6 foot, Key's 6'1", 6'2". Pretty solid with Harrington playing extremely well.
And a lot of speed on all of those positions. I can't say this for sure, but would Harrington be the slowest guy in that lineup you just named? And it wouldn't be by much, but
probably.
It's a pretty good problem to have when you have that much speed, and not just speed, but physicality at all those positions. Because I think that's one of the things that Harrington was good at, even in the last defense he was in. He was always a pretty physical player, but he wasn't put in situations to succeed and didn't have the opportunities to.
Yeah. And, talking about the other side of the defensive back room with safeties, it seems like Billy Bowman and Key Lawrence are the ones there. I don't find that very shocking at all. They seem to probably be the most talented guys in the safety room. Now you do have Jordan Mukes and Robert Spears Jennings. Spears Jennings is young. Mukes is young too. The depth is the concern there. It seems like Bowman and Lawrence have kind of separated themselves per se. We really need some good health and some good things to come together this fall for them. But, I don't think Bowman and Lawrence really shocked me. Now the Jaden Davis development, it did shock me a little bit to read, but he's got the talent. He had all the hype out of 2019. I think it was 2019, his freshman season. And so he's just putting it together. So,
yeah, this defense will be good. I'm just going to be interested to see how quickly they gel in real game situations.
Oh, for sure. A couple of weeks, we're going to find out, right? So another thing is talking about the running backs. We're going to switch over to the offensive side. It seems like Eric Gray, he's been the most consistent. Obviously, I'm pretty high on him. I'm expecting a huge season, a career season for him. And he seems to be the most consistent. Javante Barnes has looked good. It seems like Gavin Sawchuk has really been making some waves, and I'm not going to lie. I've been sitting here saying, for the last few months, red shirt. It's hard to come in, not being an early enrollee and carve out, a spot with how deep that running back room is. It seems like he might get some playing time this fall. What do you think?
I think that's awesome news because he is an electric running back, super fast. I think the one concern we had and why we all, you and I, and I think Brandon as well, thought he would redshirt is because of his weight. But he's put a lot of weight on this offseason. I think that's what's benefiting him. He doesn't look like he's not, it looks like he's meant to be there. He's physically looks prepared and he's still fast. It kind of validates Travis's reservations about Marcus Major. I think if you have two freshmen coming in and are impressing to a point where they could get, the reps at RB2 and RB3. And again, I agreed with him. I think Marcus Major has never really impressed, and people are excited. And I'm not saying that he can't be good or that he's not good. But if two freshmen come in, one of them didn't even have the spring to train with the coaches, and he's coming in and impressing and pushing for time to play this season, that's a little bit concerning. And I think Levy mentioned it whenever he was in his conference to start fall camp. It's just about showing consistency, and he has his hot flashes, and then he goes on a little bit of a slump, which happens, but you got to be able to recover from those slumps a little bit faster if you want to produce at this high of a level.
Yeah, and it's at the end of the day, I mean, I agree. Marcus Major, again, he's had this hype around him. I mean, that's not his fault that, there's been a lot of high expectations for him. He just hasn't been able to put it together. I did see an article saying that DeMarco Murray, talking about Marcus Major, that he's done everything we've asked this offseason. It's time for him to be consistent and things like that. I don't know. It seems like it's just interesting that, I think Sawchuk and Barnes are going to be so good that they're going to say it's going to be hard to keep them off the field. And Major still might be solid and might have done everything that they asked for. But when you have another player or a younger guy that is just the next step up, you only have so many snaps to go around. And at the end of the day, you got to put the best player out there that's going to get you the biggest play and everything else. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, but the more and more that they're practicing, it seems like Sawchuk very well might not redshirt. And that's a little bit of a shock to me. But, at the end of the day, we're still a few weeks away from the football season starting. So a lot of things still can change between now and then.
That room is super deep, though, thinking about it. If you have Eric Gray, bleed back, and then let's, in the scenario that we're kind of talking about here, Barnes and Sawchuk would be 2 and 3. Behind him is still a Marcus Major, who again we believe can be good, just hasn't shown consistency, especially from what the coaches are saying. Tawi Walker, who both of us really loved watching in the spring game, and that Brandon has good things to say about him as well. I mean, that right there, that lineup of 5 is a very deep room that I don't think we've had that sort of depth in a long time.
No, I mean, if someone had an injury and missed a few weeks, I really wouldn't probably be stressed at all. Now, last season and the season before, we lose one guy. It's like, oh my gosh, who are we playing? But this year, I agree, it's totally different, and it's nice finally to be able to breathe a little bit, because their injuries are bound to happen. You've got to have good quality depth behind. Talking more about the offense, it seems like Dylan Gabriel, as expected, and this is no shock, but it seems like he's really understands the offense, obviously playing at UCF with Levy. He understands he's holding everyone accountable. He's holding himself accountable. He's kind of just like as a field general, he understands. And I think with Levy coming in, it's a crash course trying to install this whole offense. And when you have a player that can be basically a player coach, and help point guys go certain ways in film review and things like that, it helps out a tremendous amount. I mean, you think about like the great quarterbacks in the NFL, Tom Brady, Rodgers, and Stafford and other people. The reason why those teams are so good, or while their coaches are good and you've got good players around you, you're able to basically have a coach on the field. And I think Gabriel can be that and is being that. And I think it's going to expedite the process for this offense to get to where it needs to be after only maybe three or 4 weeks. What do you think?
Yeah, and that's what's going to be important this season, the fact that he can be that kind of guy on the field. And I think that's what's been missing at Oklahoma the last 2 years. If we think about it, the first three quarterbacks Lincoln Riley had, Baker Mayfield, who matured over time and definitely got better at becoming that field general. But Kyler Murray had years of experience watching it, running scout team, running the team in practice. And Jalen Hurts came from a national championship team. They were all experienced at understanding how to lead on the field, on and off the field. Dylan Gabriel brings that. I think Spencer Rattler and Caleb Williams are just way too young to have that mentality on and off the field. Both of them seemed like they were probably leaders that were friends with the guys, but on the field leadership was all kind of put on Lincoln Riley's shoulders, which he's the head coach. That's what he's supposed to be there for. But it's nice when you have two guys rather than the head honcho, when only one individual having to bear that burden.
Yeah, and I think they're going to be able to put it together. I'm sure there's ups and downs with this offense right now, and they're playing against a pretty solid defense, arguably one of the better defenses in the Big 12 already, and they haven't even taken a snap under Brent Venables. But it's looking pretty good. And, talking about that offense and who Gabriel's going to be throwing to, usual names are popping up that are making plays. Marvin Mims, not a shot, making good plays. Weiss and Farouk and Stoops seem to be playing well. But also another guy that seems to be playing well is Jaden Gibson, and also JJ Hester to the same, certain extent as well. But Jaden Gibson, and he might become what Jalil Farouk is for Brandon to me. Jaden Gibson, I know it was in the spring game. He ended up having that long touchdown, and he put together, I don't know what, 80 yards or something in that game. You got to take it with a grain of salt. But Gibson seems to be a guy that's going to be really hard to keep off the field. And there's not many guys that are 6'5" and have the ability to move the way that he does. And he can create separation. He can go high point the ball. He can just go play bully ball, basically, and you just throw it up to him and he can go moss someone. And we haven't had that in a long time. And when the freshmen come in and Gibson is able to do that, and Hester's also 6'2", 6'3", and he's a transfer in. It's going to be tough to keep him off the field. Now, do I think Weiss is going to get benched? No. Do I think Farouk's going to get, I think Farouk and Gibson are going to be battling for playing time. Mims won't have his playing time touched, but I think you're going to see a lot of 4 wide receivers in this offense because of the amount of talent and the depth. And it's going to be really hard to match up with a Jaden Gibson and a Weiss. And then you've got Mims over the top. You've got 2 huge receivers. What do you do? I mean, the length and the height is not in the Big 12. So you have really tall receivers. It's tough to stop.
Yeah. And, I've been high on him, and I think he's going to be really good, but I haven't been as high as you guys on him. Brandon, since day one, has pretty much said this guy has the potential to start year one. I've disagreed. You've mentioned that he can get playing time and potentially get to that point. I've disagreed again. I think it's just whose time is he going to take. I have too much belief in Farouk and Mims and Weiss. But I could see him in a wide receiver set or in a package specifically for the red zone where you do want those bigger bodies. And if you have a lineup of Braden Willis at tight end, Jaden Gibson, Theo Weiss on the outside, and then you bring in Mims to the slot you can say he's a distraction or run that really nice inside out route that Hunter Renfrow is famous for. Like, that would be extremely hard to stop. You'd have 2 enormous wide receivers on the outside, a physical tight end that can catch the ball down the middle, and then a super savvy veteran at this point, wide receiver. I think that would be exciting to watch every Saturday, hopefully multiple times every Saturday.
Definitely. I mean, we've talked about that running back room being depth or having great depth. This wide receiver room has great depth as well. And we're not even talking about Nick Anderson He's there as well. And there's a few others there that are really solid. And, Trayvon West that can take, top off the defense and whatnot. So wide receiver room looks really good, really strong, better than I would say than it's been in the past few years. I think they're going to be able to put together quite an impressive season. Another thing, the offensive line is looking pretty strong as well. Andrew Rames seems to be the starting center. Jacob Sexton is pushing for some playing time potentially with Wanya Morris. I do think Wanya Morris is going to ultimately end up winning out and being the starter there. But if he struggles at all, Sexton's right behind him and is ready to fill in as needed, which it's kind of hard to believe that a freshman could start at a tackle position, but it seems like he's putting it together and playing extremely well. It just seems like that the strength, Coach Schmitty, what they've done, they're already night and day better just based off of how strong they are. I mean, it's amazing after it's been 8 months since they've been hired, 8-9 months, and the difference in this team and this program along the offensive line.
That just shows again how much this team was lacking with the leadership. If you can put that much strength on a junior, the strength and conditioning coach was not doing much for that kid from the moment he came in as an 18-year-old. Like, you would expect a 21-year-old to out, and yes, they're going to gain muscle and get bigger, but to go, to have that big of an explosion, right, in difference from their physicality 8 months ago from when Schmitty was hired to now, it just seems extreme to me. I can't wrap my mind around it, where Benny Wiley had these guys so far behind that Schmitty came in and immediately made this much of an impact, at least, especially at the offensive line. You would think that that'd be like the main focus. Let's get these guys as physically strong as possible. They don't need to be fast because they need to manhandle the people that are coming for our quarterback. But it's not their philosophy, which is, whatever. They took that somewhere else. But I'm excited to see this offensive line actually look like the offensive lines we were used to when we were in college with Drew Samia and Ben Powers and Cody Ford. We need to get back to that physical style, and Coach B is going to do it. Hopefully, it's a little bit more of we're seeing just one unit out there instead of all the mixing and matching that we saw last year. That I think is going to be the thing I'll be looking for a lot. Like, how consistent is the unit going to be? And I think we're going to be pretty consistent now that all of the guys are physically prepared to play.
For sure. And also not only physically, ready, but they're mentally tougher too. And I think that's part of it too, is they're mentally built up and they're mentally strong. That's also part of it. It's tough playing in the trenches, and you got to have a good mental where you're at. And I think Schmitty's also done that for him. Another thing, talking kind of in general, and we're going to just switch back to the defense for the last thing is, and I got some people don't agree. Some people agree with me. David Wegboo, he ended up dropping about 20, 30 pounds, 25 pounds between last year and this year. He's playing, I think on Sooner Sports, I think he's now at 245 pounds. So he was at 265, 270 last year. He's dropped a bunch of weight. He looks much better, much more, fluid, and looks generally more athletic and where he should be playing. He's playing at an extremely high level, making plays, flying around the field, and seems to be really in the fold to compete for some playing time. And whether it's between him and Stutzman, or they'll get different packages for him to be on the field. Another guy that's also making some waves is Jaden Kanek. Kanek is blitzing. He's playing extremely well. He's got great speed. I mean, we talked about that when he committed and during his recruitment. He's extremely fast, one of the fastest linebackers on the team, if not the fastest. He seems to be pushing for some playing time. Now, will he be a starter? I don't think so, but there could be a scenario where there are certain packages in every single game that he comes on the field for. And I could see him getting 10, 20 snaps a game. What do you think?
Yeah. So with the Wegboo, I think that's amazing. I think that is the position where we've lacked a ton of depth at outside on the defensive side of the ball, which is weird to say because it's not like our DBs have been super deep either. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how this molds. But the linebackers, it's good that we have the depth and it's so versatile. Before we started recording, you mentioned Jaden Kanek is showing a really good speed and physicality against, I think you mentioned against run defense, or in blitz packages. That right there, the fact that he's already highlighting in one specific type of defense is, to me, I think is awesome, because then all right, you can bring in a fresh linebacker when we're blitzing, and he can stay in for a couple plays to kind of disguise defenses later on. But there's guys that we're going to see in specific packages, specific defenses against specific teams. I don't think we're going to see a set, three group or a group of 3 or 4. We're going to see probably 2 guys consistently in Stutzman and White, I would say. And then we're going to see I would probably say a rotation of Kanek and a Wegboo. Who knows? Maybe McKenzie somehow gets in the fold here. Witter, they all bring something different to the room and to the field. With who was the other guy you mentioned?
Witter, or I was talking about Wegboo and Kanek. That's all I mentioned.
Kanek, yeah. The just overall, the linebackers look way better. This defense is obviously we can all agree is going to be way better. It's just the depth behind all the starters is what's promising and what I think we should all be excited for.
Yeah, and in looking at Stutzman and Wegboo, I know that they kind of play generally the same position, but they're both guys now with Wegboo playing at 245, and Stutzman's already this way, but they're 2 guys that can go sideline to sideline now and go chase after a wide receiver, go chase after a running back, go chase a mobile quarterback. You've got 2 guys now that are true, sideline to sideline. And the same could be said about Deshaun White. Deshaun White can go sideline to sideline. So you've got the quarterback of the defense, like Venables likes to say. It seems like it's really solid throughout. And you've got some really good young guys as far as depth. I don't see McKenzie really starting or playing a whole lot, but he could. Kip Lewis is there as well. Witter is, and we've been talking about him for a while. It's either now or never for him, because this 2023 class with the linebackers coming in there, really, really good depth coming in. It's going to be hard for him to really crack the lineup if he can't do it this year. So he might feel the pressure, and that might push him to take it to the next level. Feel really solid. I mean, just overall with this whole team, at the end of the day, I think there's a world where this team goes 12-0. They might be favored in every game. The game I could see them not being favored is potentially Texas. I don't know, depending on how Oklahoma State's playing, but it's in Norman for that one. Arguably, OU will be favored in 11 of their 12 games. They could go 11-1. They could go 12-0. They could go 10-2. This team overall, I feel really confident in. It might not be the most talented we've ever seen on paper, but they're going to play as the best unit, I guess you could say. And that sometimes will beat talent.
Yes, I agree. 100%. You ready for the end of video?
Yeah, I was going to say, unless you got anything else, just hit it with the end of video.
Nah. So since we're going over camp notes, from what we mentioned today, what was the most surprising thing? Was it the fact that Jaden Davis is competing for time at the corner position? Was it that Morris and Sexton are in a battle for who's going to be the other tackle? Was it Jaden Gibson? Or were you surprised that he's shown the potential to be getting time this year? Let us know what you think, and make sure that you comment that you did the follow of the social media, liked and subscribed to the channel, so we know to enter you to the ticket giveaway.
For sure. I'll say Jaden Davis is the biggest surprise to me. I know he has the talent, but in my mind, he wasn't really going to be a starter. And I know we've done the position previews, and he was never mentioned as a starter for me. So, but yeah, if you made it this far, I know it's about 45 minutes. We really appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button, like the video, turn the notification bell on for the channel. Find us on our social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you're listening to us on Apple or Spotify, leave us a review, follow the channel on there. It helps us out a lot. Everything's linked below. Be sure to do the in-video challenge. Follow us on social medias. Comment done, do the challenge. You'll be entered in for the tickets that will be given away the Wednesday before the first game, and we'll send those out to you via email. And we will be back Wednesday, probably some more team stuff or maybe some recruiting. You never know. We'll just figure out what's going to happen over the next few days. See you guys.